I'm going to apologize in advance for the glitchiness of the intro. My camera settings got out of whack. Another day, another enclosure review. Alright, so you guys know I love doing enclosure reviews. I love working with different businesses, trying out different enclosures so that you know where to shop to find the best enclosure for you and your animals. We've done 𝘬𝙪𝙨𝙤𝙨, we've done talking serpents, we've done 𝘬𝙪𝙨. Today we're going to be doing Toxirium. So I just got home from getting my hair done, taking one for the hair. I can't remember the last time my hair was ever this short. It's insane. But that's what happens when you don't get your hair done for over a year, I guess. So I got home and this was waiting for me. So we're going to open it up and try to assemble it and see what we think. Now this enclosure is one of their mini ones, so it's not going to work for any of the animals that I have as far as permanent housing, but what we decided on was it would be a great arboreal display for educational programs. So if I were to bring either Potato or Tula, my crested gecko or my gargoyle gecko, I would definitely use this. Maybe in the future with arboreal frogs. So we've opened the box. And inside are our pieces. Okay, so packaged pretty well. Nothing appears to be damaged. Everything looks good. It's all held together well. We've got this like plastic stuff holding it together so the pieces aren't sliding all over the box and getting separated. So far, I like that. Instructions, clear as day, attached to the front, so I don't have to look them up or do any guesswork. And it looks like there's no like screws or anything. So I'm very interested to see how this is going to come together. So let's go ahead to the table or something where we have room to put this together. Okay, so I got those set. So it looks like it goes together pretty easily. You just have your frame, and then it looks like everything should just slide together pretty easily. So I'm assuming that is like the door in the front. This must be the bottom, would be my guess. This is clearly the side because there's the latch. So maybe, I don't know. Go like this. I think this is tricky getting it under the track and not leaving any behind. See how there's some left behind there? Trying to get it. It's also very dusty and kind of dirty. And see the dirt I got off of that. There is a little dent right there. I am very forgiving. I don't think you're going to see it. I think it's on the inside maybe. Okay, so my camera died, but I started to figure it out. So when you look at just all of the pieces, you can kind of figure out which one's which. So clearly, these two belong in the front. This one clearly belongs up top. It's got the screen, which means that we have our three panels that are all the same. Well, then we've got this one with the latch. So clearly this goes in the front. So that made it really, or on the side. So that made it obvious, which leaves these two other panels that are exactly the same. So obviously one's the back and one's the other side, which leaves one panel left, which is the bottom. So I was determined to not have to watch the YouTube video. I was going to figure this out. So then they slide in, just like the picture showed. Now, they don't slide in super easy. You do have to bang it in a little bit, which is a good thing. That means it'll actually hold well. So I always complain when things don't just happen super easily, but in hindsight, you don't want it to be super easy. Maybe if I can get it. Here we go. The hardest part is getting it lined up just right where it slides and doesn't just fall out. So there we go. Now just to get our last side on. It's just a slide onto the bottom too. This is why you read the instructions, boys and girls.
A few moments later.
So I actually had to take a knife and get a piece of plastic out of there that was keeping it from from sliding, which took 2 seconds, but okay, so now we can put the back on. I'm confused. Did I do it backwards? I did it backwards. Every time I do an enclosure, I always have to put at least one piece on backwards. Always. Rarely we're just doing a test to see how hardy it is and how well it stays together and if it can handle mistakes when being built. There we go. Sure, these pieces are lined up in the front. That way the back can actually go all the way down. Slide it back in. Okay, so now it wants the front screen. So this little piece right here. That just slides right down in. It says to put on the lid. Alrighty. Lid's on. Alright, we're back for round 2. I had to look up a video for this because I was just extremely confused. So we're going to start off with trying to get the screen off the front door panel. So this is one of my issues. The panels that you have to get the film off of, it's tucked in underneath the side pieces. So I don't really know how to get the film off completely. So I used a knife to cut around the edges. Don't slide the top all the way back. Oh! So I put this bottom piece on upside down. Now I don't believe the instructions said anything about the right way to do it. So I slid it on. I didn't know, knowing that there was a top and a bottom. So when you put this bottom piece on, be aware that you want this hole right here, because that's where the door slides into, the hinge of the door. So it needs to be facing upwards. Okay, so now we can slide our lid back on, making sure that the hole for the door is on the proper side. Okay, and then the door, got it in the hole, and in the other hole. I don't really know how you're supposed to get that lined up. I need to watch the video again, because this is not making any sense. And then he pulls the lid up. But this is not budging. This lid is not going nowhere. And it's not going anywhere. I literally can't get that together. Something here has got to not be correct. I have no freaking idea. He made it look so easy. In, lift. There is no lifting that. I literally cannot get this door on. I'm gonna have to message them. I will get back to you guys. Okay, I'm using the back of my futon to hold my camera, so hopefully all is good because this is very spur of the moment. Obviously I'm not wearing any makeup, haven't done my hair, anything. But I finally finished putting together the enclosure. So this is what it looks like, all finished. So where we left off, I was trying to figure out how to put the door on. Once I got the door on, there's this piece down here, just this flat piece that just plops into the bottom for the flooring. So where I struggled, and mind you, I messaged the company on Instagram asking for help because I could not figure out how to get this door attached. And they said they'd get back to me and never did. Now, I'm used to that happening with people online. They get really busy, they forget. Normally I send a follow-up message. So that is what it is. But I was able to figure it out. So what ended up happening was I didn't have this front piece down all the way because of the way everything else was put together and the way it was all sitting. There wasn't room for it to come all the way down. I had to put everything shoved together a bit more. Oh, the dog. Please don't knock over my camera. Hello. Can I talk about this? Or would you like to talk about it? Because right now it looks like you want to talk about it. Okay. So I had to really shove this piece down after I got everything pushed back and wherever it was supposed to be. That left a lot more room for this to be able to sit and go where it needed to go. So once I got that figured out, the door ended up fitting in and it was much easier to put together. And then the bottom piece just slaps in. So it's a open frame, and then that bottom piece just sits in there. So let's start with cons so that we end on a high note with the pros. So cons, clearly it was a little bit of a pain to put together. The instructions weren't all that clear. I mean, they made sense, but without the pieces being labeled, it just didn't make sense. So I took some juggling, some jiggling to try to figure out what exactly the instructions were telling me to do. Another con, the pieces go together pretty hard. Like, I had to be super aggressive to get these together, and the couple of times where I realized I put things together wrong, or I had to take things apart to fix something else, they were very hard to get apart. So that could be a pro. We'll keep that for the pros. But it was very hard to put them together. In fact, I actually broke a piece off somewhere. I think it was off of the top. Yeah, because towards the end, when I was really being aggressive trying to get this door attached, I ended up breaking a piece off of somewhere. Still functions without it though. Another con is the plastic that comes on it that like protects all these pieces. It's tucked into the framework, I guess we'll call it. So even if you were to take the film off, it's still stuck under there. So I still have that plastic stuff jammed into a lot of areas, especially in the corners. And then my other con would just be the base. If you are making this like a permanent, if you're making this like a permanent setup, you definitely want to probably silicone that bottom. So I'd be kind of scared an animal would get under there and escape. I guess it's kind of similar to the Reptiles enclosures actually. So maybe it's not that big of an issue. Because if I remember correctly, this is how Reptiles is. It's just a frame and this piece that sits inside. So it's kind of like a mini Reptiles, I guess. So I guess it's not that big of a con. But I would just be cautious depending on what kind of animal you use with it. Maybe you want to silicone that bottom. For me, it's not too big of a deal because it's just a display enclosure for programs and booths and whatnot. So that's not a big deal because this isn't like a permanent standing enclosure for me. This just comes to programs with me for educational purposes. And then con, when I messaged them for help, they said they'd get back to me and didn't. Again, I'm totally used to that with businesses and people online. They are super busy and sometimes they're like, okay, yeah, I'll do that later, and then totally forget. I'm totally guilty of it. I forget to respond to messages that I open all the time because I open them when I'm in the middle of something and I'm like, oh, I'll go back to it later. And then because that notification's gone, I totally forget for a while. Okay, so then the pros. It came pretty quickly, if I remember correctly. It's been a little bit now. It was packaged really well, as you guys saw when I unboxed it. Packaged super nicely, was well protected in shipping, and even though the plastic pieces are tucked in under the framework, which makes it really hard to get them off, I did like that they had those plastic pieces on them to protect the sides and whatnot, and the glass in the front, or plexiglass, whatever you want to call this, acrylic, protected it during shipping and while putting it together and everything to make sure it didn't get all scratched up and gross. I like the concept of everything sliding together. I just wish it slid together a little easier than it did. But again, we mentioned a little bit earlier, pro, it is very sturdy. Like now that it's together, I was a little worried putting it together. It seemed like it was just all over the place, moving around, not gonna be very sturdy and together. And now that I have it together, it is very, very sturdy and it's not going anywhere. Everything is locked in together. It's great. Another pro, I don't know entirely if this is what it's meant for, but in the back here, there's these two lock things. I think they should twist down to kind of lock it into place. I need a screwdriver to do that though, so I haven't messed with it. So there's like little details like that that I can appreciate. And what I really, really like is the lock on the door. So it swings up and then opens. So it's like just a nice little fancy lock mechanism there. So I really like that. That's probably my favorite part, is that it just looks really nice. So overall, would I recommend this enclosure if you had a small animal, mind you, because this is what, 8 by 8 by 12? Maybe? It is 8 by 8 by 12. So meant for a tiny animal. So if you had a tiny animal
that could benefit from ventilation, both down here and up top, I would recommend this. Once you get through the pain of putting it together, it's very sturdy. I think it makes a great enclosure. It looks very hardy, like it's gonna do well and it's gonna last a long time. So I would recommend these enclosures in the long run. Mind you, this is the only one I've tried. So as far as this one goes, I would recommend this one most definitely if you can figure out how to put it together. So I'm very excited to be able to use this for geckos at booths, to be able to display them. Potentially some different invertebrates. So maybe like putting in a piece of cork bark with some cockroaches, maybe an arboreal tarantula. So stuff that could benefit from some sort of arboreal setup like this to be on display at a booth. I think it's gonna look really nice, so I'm very excited about that. So I will put the link to their site down below so you guys can go check them out. Have you guys used these enclosures before? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thank you guys for watching today's video, and we'll see you for the next one. Bye!